We're moving into the final hour. Bali, my son is having kind of a different type of food expectation these days. The other day, I was told that he was handling a chicken drumstick.
Yeah.
And we were also excited.
All by himself.
He was going in. He was going into this drumsticks. Like, okay, finally, you've come to this. Maybe it's time for me to stop buying that milk, that expensive milk.
He still wants the milk.
I'm like,
if he's not two yet, he still needs milk. So
I'm like, finally, the milk. I don't need to buy milk anymore.
Meat does not substitute milk by any means, sir. Buy the milk. Buy the milk.
Well, we're talking a little bit about that today, but we're going to be speaking more focused on intermittent fasting, but also how do you, when you are actually working on that as maybe a parent, as a family leader, how do you consider the lifestyle of those around you, because they have different nutrition needs? And so that's what's coming up on the show as we speak about nutrition in this hour.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So you can continue the conversations of the day on our socials. We are still streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube. So come in, join us, see what we're up to in the studio, comment over there, comment on our WhatsApp number, and of course on all our social media platforms at Channel Africa 1.
Channel Africa and you have got something in common. The thirst for knowledge.
Você é fluente em português? É apaixonado por rádio e quer trabalhar na África do Sul? Você tem documentos que o qualificam para trabalhar na África do Sul? Nesse caso, podemos ter uma oportunidade para você trabalhar no Canal África. Envie seu currículo e demonstração para Canal África at newsroom@channelafrica.co.za. Lembre-se, se você não receber alguma resposta nossa em 14 dias, isso significa que você não foi selecionado. Canal África, a perspectiva africana.
The rhythm of Africa, the pulse of the continent. This is Channel Africa, the African perspective.
I've been there so far, they also for the street. I can't scatter everything on the legit. I see courage, enjoyment, you talk say it a kilo. Under fire, the person where they be for.
That's Rude Boy with one titled Enjoyment. Let's take a bit of a break. We're going to be back with our nutrition discussion after this.
In this episode of Channel Africa Conversations, Peter talks to Dr. Thulisile Buddha, an academic, author, and an expert in indigenous knowledge systems. Join us for a compelling discussion on preserving African languages and traditions in the digital era. Dr. Tulisile unpacks the role of educators, explorers, and how technologies like AI can support cultural preservation, and challenges us to rethink how we honor African heritage. You can find the episode on YouTube, SABC Plus, and on our website, channelafrica.co.za. This episode is a must-listen for educators, creators, and change makers across the continent. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Where Africa's voices rise, with stories that matter, we lead the conversation.
Channel Africa, the African perspective.
11 minutes past 11 o'clock Central African time. We're speaking fitness and nutrition today. Hey, you know what? It's usually an African thing to say, hi, man, these little ones will eat what we eat, man. They'll grow quickly. It's fine. They'll be okay at some stage. But is it what we eat and how we eat affecting our little ones? And how's the diet going to be different as they grow up and also eat the same things that we eat? We're speaking a little bit about something that happens where, you know, if you have that religious mother who's going on a fast and say, guys,
and then she wakes up and says, we are fasting as a family.
Exactly.
All of us.
Exactly.
We are now fasting.
It usually happens like that, Bali, where it's like an imposition to the whole family,
Yeah.
right? But intermittent fasting has become one of those biggest health trends of our time, praised for improving metabolism, weight management, and even longevity. A recent study featured on South Africa's news website, News24, suggests it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. While adults may experience real health benefits, the same eating pattern could be risky for children and teenagers whose bodies are still growing and developing. We unpack what the science is saying and why young people's nutritional needs are different from those of adults. Matome Diala joins us, a registered dietitian. Matome, welcome on the show.
Welcome. Thank you very much. And thank you for welcoming me on the show and the listeners and the viewers at home.
Yeah, you know, I was telling Bali just when we were introing this that, you know, my son now is starting to hold a drumstick and chew pieces. Maybe he doesn't chew it to the degree we would like to and him finish that. And maybe it won't replace me buying the milk. But, you know, his needs have changed over time. But I was trying to dare his mom like, hey, babe, does this mean I don't have to buy milk anymore? And his mother looked at me and said, no.
Sorry,
dude. You still have to buy that milk. And that's the thing. Sometimes when we think about our nutritional needs in the home, we think about budget, we think about our needs as adults, and we forget that children have a completely set of nutritional needs.
True. I mean, look, kids need to grow, and for kids to grow, food becomes very important of what they eat and what they don't eating. And as kids, we follow what the adults eat. I mean, if at home we are eating in the morning, we are used to eating this particular breakfast, that's how we are going to grow up eating. I mean, right now, I'm sure there are things that your parents that were feeding you in. Then some of the things you hate them because you felt like that's something that you don't want. But I mean, a young child still needs, normally would say, still needs about 2 glasses of milk a day. If you feel as an adult you don't want to buy milk, unfortunately, the child still needs milk. The child needs the full nutrition. They still need their protein. They still need their carbohydrates, and they still need their minerals and vitamins from vegetables and fruits. And I know kids normally don't like these fruits and vegetables, but we need to instill in them that's what we need to eat. And unfortunate part is that what we eat is what the kids or the children will imitate as they grow up.
You know, but we also have our own needs as parents, and something that is being touted about in different spaces is intermittent fasting, and many adults are actually adopting that. Could you let us know what that intermittent fasting is and how it has a benefit for adults?
Intermittent fasting means that, you know, there's a particular time in the day that you say, I'm not going to eat. Some people decide to, I'm not going to eat, and also what are the choices of food that I'm going to have. Normally people would say, I'm going to try to eat as early as possible and before probably 7 in the morning, and I'll probably eat again late in the evening. But during the day, you are literally saying you're not doing anything, and this can span from a day to 6-7 days, or even 2 weeks or so. People have done it longer. The benefit thereof in terms of adults says that it somehow improves. Some studies suggest that it improves insulin sensitivity, helps in terms of fat burning, but it does not literally, it is not a magic bullet wherein you are gonna ultimately lose a whole lot of weight. The calorie restriction is still a better way of, if you want to lose weight, because people normally do intermittent fasting because they want to lose weight. In a long run, it's not entirely a good thing, but in a short space of time, if you are doing it, that becomes fine. But it's not something that you're saying you're gonna do it for the whole year and say every day I'm gonna do intermittent fasting.
You know, Matome, I've seen the changes in how, children grow and the way that they eat as they grow. My son, he's 19 now, and I've seen so many, different ways that he's eaten throughout his life. There were times where he ate a little bit less, and then early into his teens started eating a little bit more. Then he dipped again to eating less, and now he's back to eating a lot more again. So you get to see the patterns in his eating throughout his life, and maybe some of the different nutritional needs that he has. So let's speak about those nutritional needs. When children's needs for their growth keep changing, and you can see that in just, their appetite and different ways that they consume food at different times in their lives, should we as parents be eating according to that? Because most of our families, we don't have, the necessary money or the pleasure to say, hey, I'm going to make this for the children and this for the parents. We all eat one thing. That's just how the budget looks.
Look, a child needs both. You need protein for muscle building. You need carbohydrates, which is mostly starch, for energy, and you roughly don't need much fat again for energy. Kids or children, as they grow, their nutrition needs changes, and somehow move from, at some point they have less appetite. Yes, that might be due to a whole lot of other things that influence them, from a point of, now my body needs to look like this, from a body look like this, from peer pressure outside to say, I don't want to be eating much. I'm eating because I'm playing rugby, I'm playing soccer. I need to do 1, 2, 3, 4. But as a family, we roughly need to be eating something similar. The only difference becomes how much a child is eating and how much an adult is eating. Yes, we understand that there's an issue of money in terms of buying food. Yes, food recently, everyone has been saying food has become very expensive. Whether we say vegetables, I guess those that stay in the rurals, or those can plant some vegetables at home, they're probably much better, because at least you can get vegetables at home. But yes, we understand food is expensive, but your lunch and supper supposed to be a complete meal, which roughly includes some starch. It can be pap, it can be rice, it can be spaghetti, macaroni, a whole lot of vegetables on your plate, and meat. And meat can be anything from red meat to chicken to fish, roughly that. Or roughly, again, we say include something like beans for protein. That's basically what we need to be eating. Yes, we understand the issue of money, but we at least need to try as a family to try to be eating something similar.
Mm-hmm. And then we'll talk a little bit about this, because we are making two different propositions here, speaking a little bit about intermittent fasting and also the nutritional needs of a child. We'll bring this together in the second part of our conversation and speak about when you are fasting as a parent, what must you consider when actually thinking about your eating routine in the day for your children. Because what happens in some homes, we prioritize the adult routine and forget that the nutritional needs of the child shouldn't be changing that much based on your own adult, changes. Sometimes we just, okay, I'm changing so the kids can change, and, they'll do what I'm doing. Is that good? Is that bad? Especially when we consider this intermittent fasting. We'll bring it together after this break. Stay there on the line, Matome.
Wake up with gratitude, hope, and the African spirit. Channel Africa, now easier to access than ever before. WhatsApp us on +27 63 406 9126.
Annie Kalonji sur Channel Africa.
Comment est-ce que les militants et sympathisants du parti, les transformateurs, ont-ils réagi face à la condamnation de Succès Masra?
La condamnation de Succès Masra ne nous a pas surpris et les militants transformateurs ont été bouleversés et indignés étant donné que le verdict est un verdict lourd, illégal, injuste et donc face à la répression dans laquelle le peuple tchadien est confronté, les militants transformateurs se sont résignés de ne pouvoir pas sortir manifester et donc c'est une situation totalement absurde pour un pays et aujourd'hui nous célébrons le 11 août, fête de l'indépendance. On pensait que le verdict allait être plus ou moins clément, mais le verdict est sévère.
Annika Longi, tous les dimanches sur Mix Vibration.
This is
Channel Africa.
Well, we continue with our fitness and nutrition. Today, really looking at, the food that we eat in our families and whether we're considering the special needs of the diet of the children in our family when making different decisions on how we eat. Especially as adults, we go through so many different things, weight gains, weight losses, and different health journeys we want to be on. But what usually happens is that we automatically include our children in our health journeys. Is this good for their health? Matome Diala is a registered dietitian who continues this conversation with us. Let's chat about that, some of the repercussions of this, because if the parents in the house say, you know what, we need to be healthier, they usually don't say, I need to be healthier. They include the whole family. So they restock the fridge. When month end comes and it's time to buy groceries, or the week comes and it's time to buy groceries, they stock up on what they think is healthy and what they think is good for them. And, cooking happens usually once a day in most families, and they cook what suits this new diet. And the children just have to eat whatever is put on the table. What could be the implications of this on growing children's diets in their different stages?
I mean, restricting a child's intake, it means then the child gets to be underweight or the child gets to be malnourished in some micronutrient deficiencies like we have got iron deficiencies, you got vitamin A and C deficiencies when kids are not taking those. And some of those things are quite important for growth. So restricting a child intake to suit an adult's diet will not be a good idea. I mean, even as an adult, you still need to consider that, most adults will be, when they have chronic conditions, you cannot not eat. There's a point where you need to take medication and take food. And also in kids with other conditions, I mean, kids still grow up with diabetes. So if you're going to have a child that has diabetes, and then as a parent you say, I'm going to restrict diet because I need to lose weight, that needs to be individualized. It cannot be a whole family thing. But while a healthy eating plan, which includes breakfast, lunch, and supper, can literally include the whole family, not necessarily only the parent as such. Consider the child still needs to grow. Consider that the child has may have other health problems, which says they need to be eating all day through.
Every January, growing up at our church, Matome, we used to have a fast that used to happen. I used to dread those because then the whole family would have to fast. And I used to notice my mom used to just cook differently. It'd be like cooking less, and the main meal would be later in the evening. I'm like, how? During the day, what happens here? She's stocking less for the day because she's not eating during the day. And that's what happens sometimes. It's like, look, how do we as adults do the fasting, do that intermittent fasting if we want to, whatever types of nutritional change. If we are going to do it alone, what other considerations should we be doing for the kids? Or maybe it's a spiritual practice that you want to introduce to your children as well. How do you introduce it in a gentle way that does not affect the child?
I think in terms of kids, you'll probably not entirely restrict their food the whole day. Like I said, kids need to grow, and it's critical for kids to grow. So you probably, if you want to introduce this as a religious some sort of thing, is to, even if you're not necessarily giving them the whole meal, but still make sure that the kids are eating something during the day, because kids depend on the food to have the energy, and they still need their brain to develop. So you cannot entirely say kids are going to have 1 meal a day because as a parent you want to have 1 meal a day, because of religious and those things. And I am very sure that in some of these religious denomination, they still stress the fact that maybe kids should be excluded in those things, because we understand that kids need to grow. We understand that kids have their own challenges in terms of health, in terms of brain development. Restricting food per se will not be a good idea, even if it's just intermittent fasting for a day.
Yeah.
Yes. So a whole lot of consideration of kids functioning in terms of their dietary intake needs to be considered in us as parents introducing intermittent fasting, whether for religious reasons or for our own, I'll put it in inverted commas, selfish reasons, for our health reasons in this case.
Yeah, that's so true. And then overall, when you are trying to also make sure that you leverage some form of budgeting in these considerations, because I think sometimes that's where the conflict comes, is that am I buying for the kids only here, and am I buying for myself separately? Some families kind of can't do that. They don't have the financial muscle to actually buy just for the kids or buy for the adults. What kind of advice would you help financially on how to consider your food budget if you have a big family?
They are staples. Normally, in South Africa, our staple in terms of starch, it's pap or it's rice. I think macaroni, spaghetti are littler than that. They're considered luxury. I think consider what staples you want to have in the house. As much as we preach variety, but consider what staple you want to have and then budget around that. Vegetables, again, if we can have a food garden, it will be quite nice. Yes, I know in some instances our homes are quite small. We literally can't have a small vegetable garden in the house, but we'll probably need to consider that, at least to limit the burden on the finance in terms of buying food. In terms of meat, again, we preach variety, but consider, including the whole family in that, to say maybe chicken is cheaper. Look at what is cheaper, and then when you buy, to make sure that at least you can have variety. Kids still need variety to grow, to make sure that you have all the nutrients and that, even if it's red meat is cheaper, but normally we consider red meat, whether it's beef, whether it's lamb, quite a bit expensive. Maybe then stick to much more of chicken. Yes, now and then have a bit of red meat. I think that will help. But consider what staples you want to have in the house, and I think that will help around the budgeting also. But consider also buying for the whole family, not for an individual per se.
And also, should we be adjusting the kinds of food that we eat depending on, the ages of our children? Like I said, I've seen, my own son eat quite differently in different stages, on different ages of his life as he's growing older. Is that something that we should be considering instead of considering how when I'm intermittent fasting, the kids will intermittent fast too? Perhaps look at it the other way around and say, okay, it seems like this kid is eating a little bit more. Maybe they need a little bit more nutrition. Let's change the food or the diet to suit their growing needs.
I think one first to try to investigate why is the child suddenly intake changing, because there can be a whole lot of things while the child's intake is changing. Investigate that and try to understand before we change everything. But normally a healthier diet for the whole family becomes much better. We can consider the amount that you need to eat in terms of each food group. But normally, a simpler way of doing things is to make sure that one, lunch and supper, you've got starch, you've got protein, you've got you've got vegetables. But then the issue becomes the amount. And if there's any one varying in terms of amount that the child or the adult needs to eat, then let's rather consider one, why is the child suddenly appetite changing? Is there anything that you need to worry about? Because there can be a whole lot of things that influences that, and look at that before we can say let's change the diet to suit that particular individual.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Matome, for helping us on this one. It's been a great one indeed. Where can we go to find out more about you if you have any social media platforms?
We are on X. It's at Matome Dietician.
Thank you so much. That's Matome Diala, registered dietitian, speaking about how we should be considering our children's nutrition even when we're going through different diets and different health dietary restrictions for ourselves. We still need to consider the fact that children have different dietary needs.
Yo, that's me. I have to keep buying the milk.
Yeah, to keep buying the milk, please. It's 11:31 Central Africa time. Let's bring back File Lingwati for our latest sports.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.